Hello and welcome to Camera Review. Today we are looking at 85mm lens from Sigma. It is the latest lens to be launched by the company and it is the Art series, the DG at f1.4. This lens is designed to compete with the Canon's best lenses, which is the 85mm f1.2 and Nikon's f1.4. These two lenses are going to get their money run. This one is going to make changes into the way the market is structured, because up until now these two lenses were the bread and butter of professional photographers and they were used for weddings and for portraiture. Now Sigma is coming into the market with a lens that is going to be very competitive. First of all, the price. Now, as you may know, Canon sells the f1.2 at $1,850, which is quite high. If you are looking to purchase it, it's almost $2,000 range. This lens that's coming out from Sigma is $1,200 and it's very well priced for the market. It's going to be about 50% lower in price value than the Canon. Similarly, if you're talking about the Nikon, it is still much lower than in price terms from Nikon lenses. Now, if you're comparing the statistics and looking at the specs, you're gonna see some similarities, you're gonna see some differences, which I wanna point out. First of all, looking at the statistics of these two lenses and comparing them side by side and the MTF charts, you see that their sharpness is about on par with each other because they both have very good optics. But when it comes to the contrast, you will find the Sigma has a little bit more contrast, has a little bit more punch, and that is because the way the lens is designed has special coatings on the surface that is very different than the way the Canon has. Also, the lens structure is very different. The Sigma has a lot more elements, a lot more groupings than what the Canon has. For example, the Canon has 8 elements in 7 groups, and Sigma has 14 elements in 12 groups. So that means there's almost twice as many lens elements inside the Sigma, and that is one of the reasons it's slightly heavier than the Canons, also a little heavier than the Nikons, and that is of course to get as much of the distortion, as much of the chromatic aberration out of the lens. Now we're going to talk about the chromatic aberration, but what's important is how this lens captures bokeh, because that's what it's used for mostly and you want to shoot it wide open. First of all, when we did the test, we found that f1.4 you're going to have a beautiful bokeh. It's almost very similar in bokeh characteristics to Canon. But what happens is when you go to f2, which might be an aperture that you may want to shoot at, your contrast increases, and when you put it side by side with the Canon photographs, you're going to see that the Sigma has a lot more contrast, a lot more richness, and that may make it more pleasing to the eye. Some people have found the bokeh to be a little bit more jagged at f2. I personally found it to be more pleasing because it gives you that beautiful transition from the hard edges of the in-focus area to the autofocus areas in a more smooth fashion. Now, of course, what it comes down to price, this lens is going to make a big change in the way the market is structured because it's a very competitive lens. What this lens has is a thermally stable material on the exterior, so it protects it from exterior elements. It's not waterproof, but it's water resistant, just the way the Canon lenses is, but it is a very durable lens. When I held it in my hand, it felt very stable, very well made. It was a very nice focus turn, so it made me feel that this was just on par as Canon. So Canon is going to have a major blow in terms of the competition in the high-end price range. Also, as you may know, the Sony has A9. That is going to be a big competition to Canon's 1DX Mark II. So we are having a lot of competition that's coming in to the Canon's bread and butter market. And 85mm was one of their best-selling lenses. So we're looking at Sigma, and it's bringing a lot onto the table. And we're looking at the previous lenses that have come out, especially even the Art series from Sigma, and we're seeing this lens is particularly different First of all, the build quality is spectacular. It has more torque in its autofocus. It's 1.3 times more powerful, so it finds the focus a lot faster than what Canon has. Of course, this is a supersonic motor, but when I compared it side by side, I found that the Sigma delivered just as fast focus as Canon, at times even faster. Now, the interesting thing was when I was doing autofocus tracking, Sigma held its ground, because before it was one of the major issues with Sigma lenses, but this time it has much better autofocus. And one of the best features of that is you can upgrade this lens firmware, and that comes with a dock, and when you do upgrades, you're going to be able to get much better images. Also, you can take this lens into a Sigma dealer and they will actually perfectly match it to your camera in terms of focusing, in terms of the fine adjustments. And that's one thing that Canon does not deliver, and I think it's going to change the way the market is structured. So if you look at the way this lens is structured, you will see that it has 9 aperture blades, so it gets that beautiful round bokeh. But if you look at Canon, it has 8. It says it's circular, but when I compared it wide open, I saw that the Sigma had a little bit more roundness in its bokehs, and I kind of personally like that. When I was doing side-by-side comparison of the images that I shot at f1.4, I found the bokeh to be a rounder on Sigma because it has 9 aperture blades. Of course, Canon says it has 8 aperture blades and it's circular, but when I put it side by side, I found that Sigma had a lot more roundness in its bokeh. So if you're a filmmaker, if you're doing vlogs, if you're doing anything at night, you're gonna get those round globes of autofocus areas, and I think that makes the images far more beautiful than just shooting octagons. And of course, the difference is a little bit in terms of the bokeh characteristics, but what I found is that the price is going to be the one that determinant on whether you should buy this lens or not. And considering the image quality, the optical design, in terms of the chromatic aberration, this Sigma beats Canon in a lot of respects. But also what I found is that chromatic aberration is still an issue with both lenses, and that of course is very prominent when you shoot it wide open at f1.4. So what happens is you get the front elements a little bit more purplish. The foreground is gonna have that little bit of lining, but on the background you're gonna have the greenish tints. But that is not so strong as it was in the past, because chromatic aberration has been mostly resolved by the coatings that it has, and these coatings are on many elements in the lens design, so it helps as much as it can. Yet again, as we are talking, this is a wide open lens shot, so it's going to have some kind of a chromatic aberration, and that is hard to beat. Of course, you can go up to Auto series and have upper chromatic aberration issues removed, but that is still an issue with most of the lenses in this lineup. And of course, if you are interested in shooting at f2 or above, you're going to have those chromatic aberration issues mostly resolved. Also, you're going to get much sharper images. And I noticed that when I went from f1.4 to f2 and f2.8, the images got considerably sharper. Yet these both lenses, whether I was using the Canon, which I've used for years and years, or this new Sigma, I noticed that the image quality was far better than what we had in the past. And this one in particular is going to do much better in the future because of the firmware upgrades you can have on the lens. Now, of course, I will provide you with side-by-side comparisons, and I will do a very detailed analysis on my next video. Please stay tuned for that. That will be released in a week or so. And also, I'm going to do a lens review on the Nikon as well, because we have tested out side-by-side with the Nikon, and we're going to see how that one performs. I will tell you this much. Sigma, from what they have been producing till now, has dramatically changed the way the game is played, especially on their R series, because they used to have quality issues. They have overcome those issues. They now have much better optical design than they had in the past. This is a new design series, and also they're coming out with their cinema lenses, and I will be doing their cinema lenses as well, and just testing them out in the field and show you how they perform. So from going from still lenses to cinema lenses, they're covering the whole range. The way the Canon has been covering their range of lenses. And now we're going to see this lens company delivering very solid lenses for all kinds of camera mounts, including the Sony E-mount, Nikon, or the Canon. So if you're looking for a lens in 85mm format, this may be the lens you should be getting. And more importantly, if you are going to make an investment, making sure that your investment does not depreciate over time, Sigma is one of those lenses. Because if you buy this lens and use it for 3-4 years, you're probably going to be able to sell it for a few $100s less, but you'll still get your value out of it. And I think that in the near future, with this demand, the price of this lens will go up. And for that very reason, it may be a good idea to put your order in now. I placed a link at the bottom. If you want to get the best prices, you can visit it. Also, I would suggest that you visit our website at camerareview.ca. There you will find all our in-depth articles, reviews, and also offers for discounts and other things when you subscribe to our newsletter. And of course, if you like our review, please press the like button and subscribe to our channel. And I'll see you next week with our next review. And thank you for watching.